Too blessed to be stressed.
That's right. Yeah.
Tell me how you decided that that was the title.
Well, when I was a kid, there was this black lady I went to church with. Her name was Sister Johnson, and every time you would greet her or ask her how she was doing, that was her answer. I'd say, "How you doing, Sister Johnson?" She'd say, "Oh, I'm too blessed to be stressed," and that always stuck in my head. And it's such a positive way of looking at things. And
yes,
it's a way of saying, you know, yes, we have problems, but if you weigh it all out and you look at your life, most of the time there's more good than bad. And so I like that phrase so much that I made it into a sing-along song, and I made it the title cut of my record. And my record, Too Blessed to Be Stressed, intentionally, everything on it it's like feel-good music.
Yes,
it's
it
like
is.
Feel-good music. It's kind of like Americana cooling the game. You remember those guys?
Oh, vividly.
Yeah, and they always had songs that make you feel good.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what this record is.
Well, I think that's been the real thing that has finally gotten people to pay attention to everything's going to be all right. It sort of becomes a mantra. You start to believe it as you listen to it and sing it.
That's right. Well, you know, there's a time and a place for all kinds of music. When your heart is broken, you want to hear something about having a broken heart. But I'm not in that season of life right now, you know.
Good.
I'm in a season of things are good, and, you know, I'm new in the Texas scene. I got into the Texas scene originally way back. Jerry Jeff Walker recorded a song I wrote, and after that, Wade Bowen recorded another song I wrote called Mood Ring.
Wonderful.
And so I got into the Texas scene by my songs, and then I became friends with all those people. And I've done a bunch of shows with Jerry Jeff Walker, and I've done a bunch of shows with Wade. We've become friends.
Good.
And you know, and actually Randy Rogers just recorded one of my songs.
Do you remember which one?
It's a song called Love Scar.
Okay.
It's on from one of my older records. It hasn't came out yet, but you know, I said all that to say that I'm getting in with these people.
Yes.
And they've invited me to come out and do shows with them.
Good.
And so all of a sudden, even though I'm not from Texas, the Texas people have took me in. And I got a lot of new Texas friends, and things are looking up.
That's good, because the truth of the matter is that Texas and Mississippi have a lot of things in common, and they're close. And your experience sounds to me like you and Ray Wiley Hubbard were simply made for each other.
Well, that's funny you should say that, because Ray Wiley Hubbard's a good friend of mine too. And all the albums I've ever done, I did all original songs that I wrote myself, except for one. And on the Covers album, I did a Ray Wiley Hubbard song. I did his song, Snake Farm.
Oh, great!
And people,
How fun!
It's a great song.
Oh, it is.
And he's one of my absolute favorite Texas songwriters, Ray Wiley Hubbard, because a lot of his stuff's got that profane and biblical stuff in it. There's a lot of references to spiritual things and the devil.
Yes.
And so I have that in common with Ray, and I can identify with his style of writing.
You were a prize fighter.
Yes, ma'am.
You were a skydiver.
Yeah.
What does that bring to your work?
Well, you know, I was a professional boxer at one time, and at the height of my career, I was actually number 29 ranked middleweight in the whole world.
Wow.
And I got a chance to fight on national television against the 4-time world champion Roberto Duran. Have you heard of him?
No, sir, but I don't know fighting.
Well, if you know,
people in our office
it's
do.
equivalent of. It would be the equivalent of. It would be the equivalent of how great Michael Jordan was at basketball. Roberto Duran was that great at boxing, and I got to fight him on national TV. And it was scheduled for 10 rounds, but after 6 rounds of fighting him, I sat on my stool and I had this horrific cut over my eye. My lip was split real bad, and so they stopped the fight. He was the better man, but I did get some punches in, and I busted his eye, and he had to go to the hospital just like me and get sewed up.
So that was even.
And we actually rode to the hospital in the same ambulance.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Funny.
And because he was the rock star in the boxing world, they sewed him up first. So I had to wait.
Do you have a scar?
Yeah, they did a lot. I had a pretty good plastic surgeon that helped me get my face put back on. But but that, yeah, I really have. But you know, after I lost to Durant, I had 3 fights after that against lesser opposition, and I won them all. But I just got to a point where I realized that in any sport, like especially a violent sport like boxing, unless you're the absolute best, there's no real sensible reason to stay in it, because otherwise you're just going to be somebody that somebody else can punch on and get brain damage or something. So I left boxing, and a lot of people say, a lot of naysayers, they say, why did you quit boxing? I say, I did not quit boxing. I took it as far as I could take it.
Well, that's a very different thing.
There's a very different thing. If I had you know, a lot of people quit something because it gets tough. But I didn't quit it for that reason. I just knew that I didn't have the natural ability to be a world champion, so there was no reason to take it any further.
Yeah.
I have pride that I took it as far as I could.
Well, that sounds reasonable. I've never talked to anybody who did anything like that, and it seems to me that that's a very intelligent way to look at it. I mean, it's one thing if you're a good guitarist and not a great guitarist. It's quite another if you get your head hurt.
It's like somebody that says they want to lose weight and they eat a whole sack of ho-hos. You know?
Yes.
You know, they're not trying.
No, they're not trying.
Yeah. You know those Hostess ho-hos?
Yes, I do.
They're good.
I don't care for them, but I know people who love them.
I do. I like them a lot.
You don't eat Hostess
In fact,
ho-hos.
I do, but I exercise a lot. In fact, today's my drummer's birthday, and for his birthday, I bought him a box of ho-hos.
You're just all heart.
That's right.
Tell me why you decided to call your label Perpetual Obscurity.
Okay. Well, when I first, my first record actually came out on A&M, which is a big international.
It was, yes, sir.
But the timing was off, and when my record was about to come out on A&M, the company was being bought out by another company, and so all the baby acts got booted out.
Bye.
And so I felt, you know, I was young and green. I thought because I had a record deal, I was going to be a big deal and everything, but I was a learning experience. And so after that, me and this business partner of mine, we decided to start our own record label. And just for a joke, because we had nothing going on and no hope for the future, it didn't seem like, we just called it Perpetual Obscurity. Well, perpetual means never ending, and obscure means nobody's ever heard of it.
Exactly.
And so for fun, we did it like that. And so now that we're you know moderately successful and have a fan base, and we still keep that because it's a good way to remember where you came from, and a good way to remember where you will return if you don't treat people right and build bridges and you know, and be good to people. Have
you had the opportunity to meet Kevin Fowler?
I don't think so.
Well, the reason I ask you that is Kevin, as he himself has said in this very setting, Kevin is now one of the grand old men of Texas music, and it was just a few years ago that he was one of the up-and-coming kids. But one of the things I admire so much about Kevin is he can headline anywhere he wants to, and he always turns out a big crowd. But if somebody asks him to open that is less famous than he is, he goes and does it because he wants to work and he wants to support the acts. And to me, that's really at the heart of the Texas scene. The musicians support each other, and they work together to make sure that the good music keeps on coming.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I didn't know that about Kevin Fowler, but I see a picture of him.
Yes,
right over there.
yes, there is a picture of him.
It says something that I don't fully understand.
No, you don't. And the reason it does, there's a gentleman, a very nice man named Bo Wesley.
Well, I'm glad to know that the wiener's a dog.
Yes, the wiener's
That's
a dog.
That's the main thing that I was concerned about there for a minute.
I feel that shirt is right down your alley, Paul.
Oh, yeah, I'd wear that in a heartbeat. Yeah.
If you could meet any guitarist, living or dead, and play with him or her, who would it be?
I got to do it.
Oh.
My favorite guitar player is Jeff Beck.
Well, mine too.
You know, this is a strange story, but early on, when I first got signed to a record deal, within 2 weeks of quitting the furniture factory, I was opening for Sting.
Wow.
I got to do a tour opening for Sting because of the connection I had. and the connection. Oh, and by the way, going to that, growing up a minister's son, we weren't allowed to go to secular concerts, and so the first concert I ever attended in my life was when I did the tour with Sting. Yeah.
You must have been totally stunned.
I was stunned, but not nervous, because you have to remember, being a minister's son, I was singing in church when I was 3 years old.
Yeah.
So I didn't have any anxiety being in front of a congregation. Or
a mass.
It didn't bother me. But anyway, the tour with Jeff, that I did with Sting, went really well. And even though I had just lost my record deal with A&M, and I was starting Perpetual Obscurity Records, the timing was really good, because Jeff Beck heard about me, and he wanted a guy to come out there without a band and do an acoustic opener. And that's what I was doing at the time, because I didn't have a band. So I got to do a 30-show tour as the opening act for Jeff Beck.
Wow.
And every night I would go out there, just me and my acoustic guitar, and it actually worked, because it was so different from what he did, and it was so out of left field that people actually liked it. And so our little Perpetual Obscurity CDs that we had, when I would get through with my show, I would say, hey, listen, y'all, during intermission, I'm going to be out at the merchandise table. I'd love to meet all y'all. And we sold boatloads of CDs. And so Perpetual Obscurity got launched based on by Jeff Beck. So, yeah, so, and not only that, he's just, aside from him giving me a leg up in my career, his playing is unlike anybody else's.
Absolutely.
You know? And he's got a real, like a lot of them old rockers, he's got long hair, and somehow it stayed black. Yeah. It stayed black. And he's got he's got a big old bald spot here in the back. But he uses some of that hair, some of that paint they put on their head.
Yeah.
You know that paint that guys do on the infomercials?
Yes.
That stuff works if it's on the back. But if you try to put it on the front, it starts dripping down. It looks like Alice Cooper. Remember Alice Cooper?
Oh, vividly. And just as an absolutely ridiculous piece of information, I will give it to you, because I only found this out yesterday. Alice is going to be playing here on Valentine's Day.
I love Alice Cooper.
I do too. Did you know that Alice's wife of 39 years, did anybody know Alice and his wife have been married that long? She's in the show. She plays the insane nurse.
Well, as it should be.
Let's talk about you again. Okay, so here's your album, Too Blessed to Be Stressed, thanks to the lovely lady in church.
That's it.
Which includes Everything's Gonna Be All Right. And another one of my favorite titles, Mediocrity is King.
You like that one?
I like that one.
I'm glad.
And here is a real beautiful album, a vinyl album.
Yeah. It's the same project as Too Blessed to Be Stressed, but I have a lot of really diehard fans, and every time I put a record out, I always try to put out some kind of collector's piece to go with it. And this time it was an LP, and all the artwork on the LP was done by me. And it's got an airbrushed picture of me on the inside. They smoothed out my wrinkles and stuff.
Yeah, isn't that nice? It doesn't look a thing like you, folks.
It doesn't. But the ladies that likes me, they can look at it and think that's what I really look like.
That's right, because you're up on stage and they're not sure anyway. And I really will say that for those of you who love vinyl, this is, honest to God, beautiful artwork and album, and plenty of nice music too.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's been a big seller actually, because a lot of people they don't even have a record player.
Right.
But that's really not the point. It's a collector's item, and they can put it up on their shelf or whatever.
Or on their wall.
That's right. And I've seen people have put pictures on Facebook and stuff, how they've got it arranged in their living room. That's a very nice feeling for me to know that they would make something I did part of their house. That's great.
I have one final question for you.
What's that?
Is there anything you haven't done?
I haven't made it to #1 in Texas yet.
All right, that's a good goal. Thank you, Paul. Come back anytime.
Thank you very much.